LoreWarrior Online, BSN-3K, Bishamon. Overview. Impressed by the success of the Venom design, Draconis Combine officials approached Omnimechs Fusion Products about producing a slightly larger scout mech that used some of the newer technology available. Intrigued by the challenge, Omnimechs designers began work on what would become the Bishamon. In their first and most important decision, the designers chose to use a 4-leg chassis. Seeking a more stable platform for scouting, Omnimechs found the unorthodox quad configuration to be the best choice. The designers also felt that a heavily armed scout could go more places on the battlefield than lighter armed and armoured mechs could, and so made full use of several new weapons. Unfortunately, this left no room for jump jets, but Omnimechs designers felt that the combination of heavier weaponry and armour, speed, and a stable quad chassis would make up for the lack of jump capability. After reviewing the design, the DCMS agreed. Capabilities. The Bishamon was built using all of the latest materials, sparing no expense. Omnimechs included a 315XL engine and an endo-steel chassis. The innate space limitations of a quad design precluded the use of ferrofibrous armour, but the designers did add 10.5 ton of standard armour, more than any bipedal mech of the Bishamon size can carry. For weapons, Omnimechs first chose the newly available medium-range missiles, adding a rack of 20, and enough ammunition to keep it supplied during the scouting missions for which it was intended. Supplementing the missiles are 2 Tronal 12 medium pulse lasers, with a proven track record on the Venom. The designers also purchased diverse optics ER medium lasers from the Free Worlds League, whose weapons manufacturers are selling much of their advanced technology across the inner sphere. Deployment. The Bishamon so far has been distributed only to the 1st Sword of Light Regiment, which is fitting. The 1st Sword are known as the Ivory Dragon, representing religious devotion, and the Bishamon is named for a Japanese god, one of the 7 fortunes. The symbolism is likely deliberate. Variants. Only one variant of the basic design has been produced. At a ratio of 1 model for every standard 4, the variant replaces the MRM-20 with an MRM-10 and both ER medium lasers with ER smalls. It also adds a C3 master computer, and this variant is meant to lead Lancers of Light and Medium Combine Omnimechs. Now this one actually sounds pretty cool, and again it's one that I'm not too bothered about the art with. It's not terrible. It's a 45-tonner, again. Its chassis is the Fortune 7 Endo Steel Quad. Power plant is 315 GM XL, its cruise speed is 76 kph, and the max speed is 119, with obviously no jump capability. Its armour is the Omnimechs Type 3, and its armament is a single Shogunga MRM-20 launcher with 2 diverse optics extended range medium lasers and 2 Tronal 12 medium pulse lasers. It's manufactured by Omnimechs Fusion Products Limited, primary factory on Tematagi. Its communication system is the Omicron 5000, and its targeting and tracking is the Eagle Eye B18. Jumping on over to the stats, that translates into a walk of 7 and a run of 11, with 10 double heatsinks, giving it a nice 20 heat dissipation per turn. Probably not actually capable of handling all of the weapons firing, but it's enough heat capacity if it needs to fire just the lasers, or it's firing the MRM and the pulse lasers, for instance. It's giving it armor value of 9 on the head, 21 on the CT with 6 on the rear, 17 on the right and left torso with 5 on the rear, and then 22 across all of the legs. Weapons are spread evenly across the left torso for one ER medium and the right torso for the other ER medium, and the pulse lasers are also spread across both side torsos. The MRM-20 is counted as the right torso, with 12 rounds of ammunition also stored in the same side torso. Not a bad mech. Not a lot of quads in Battletech, mainly because, yeah, I understand, in universe they're not as common. They're probably a little bit more complex and more expensive to produce, and there are supposed benefits to using the design. Obviously, some of the rules do allow for some more interesting maneuvers with the vehicle, as being able to sort of crouch lower to give yourself a slightly better defensive posture, being able to kind of hit with multiple legs, for instance, in melee attacks, that kind of thing. But yeah, obviously it's much easier in-universe to produce bipedal designs rather than spending a lot more money on these quad designs. They're also a little trickier for pilots to get used to, and some of them are not a smooth ride, as the Scorpion would attest, until much later development. as such, the Bishamon is interesting. I don't dislike it. I'm not sure if it's. I guess it's supposed to be like kind of arachnid style head, but I do like the big launcher on the top. That's kind of fun. I also like the fact that its variant design is built specifically to kind of run with Omnimechs, which a majority of the Innisphere Omnimechs were built by the Combine. And though they didn't really seem to take off in the Innisphere, mainly due to the complexity of the design, and it was just, again, the Innisphere is almost solely set up with the idea of being able to build large numbers at this point of standard battle mechs. The Omnimechs are just a whole other headache, whereas the clans are obviously the opposite. They're built mainly around producing Omni technology and less about building standard battle mech technology. So yeah, there's differences on both sides. The other reason I think in universe you write it that the Innisphere don't suddenly have Omnimechs aplenty is, well, you keep the two different groups unique in that respect, don't you? The idea that some Omnimechs are in development and being produced in smaller numbers, although progressively less as time goes on, for the Combine makes sense. But the idea of by 3060 that the Combine are still working on keeping the Omnimech edge and having a few mechs built around supporting it, I like that idea. That's pretty cool. The Bishamon is an interesting one to encounter. Again, it's not something that's massively deadly weapon-wise. It's got a bit of a range disadvantage there, entirely being built around medium-range combat. But it's got good speed. 11 on a run, even 7 on a walk is quite decent. So yeah, it's a good little infighter. When it does get into that close range, it's pretty fucking scary, actually. And yeah, but it's also not, again, so heavily armoured that players, I think, would be having too much trouble or break out into a sweat fighting it, but it's definitely something that you could bring a couple in on a mission where you're working for, say, the Fed Sons, you're doing a bit of a raid into, obviously, Combine space, or possibly playing as the Combine, maybe going into a kind of operation into the Ghost Bear Dominion territory, possibly jumping into somewhere like the Outworld Alliance, maybe setting up some kind of clandestine facility out on one of their systems without them realizing for a bit, and then, all of a sudden they get detected. Obviously they're not supposed to be there, they get attacked. Players are having to work with the DCMS or playing as the DCMS to try and get the fuck out, holding off forces that are coming to basically, attack them, try and raid their facility kind of thing. And like in a bit of an emergency scenario. There's a few that you can come up with, and I think the Bishamon would fit well for some of those. So yeah, again, much like the Beowulf before it, another mech that I don't actually mind in 3060. Art's not too terrible, like the build, and I think you could come up with some fun little scenarios that involves one. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But as always, I will leave you again. Hope you have a good week. Thanks for listening as always, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.